Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be talking about building your standout personal brand today using personal branding, social media, and of course, the platforms where you are using the most, where your audience lies. And I'm really delighted to be running this little mini workshop today, thanks to Andrea. And it's been so good to see you guys at GES and also to meet so many wonderful business owners as well. Now, for those that are watching, I'm sure you already know that personal branding is super, super important. I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't have a personal brand these days in 2021, then you really are going to fall behind with all the other brands that are out there where the business owner or their sales or marketing team are really putting themselves out in the forefront. And why is that the case? We are going to talk about the benefits today. We're also going to be talking about why it's so important, how you can do it. We're going to touch a little bit on LinkedIn as well. And if you guys have any questions at all and you're tuning in live, then feel free to ask during this live broadcast. Otherwise, just leave a comment on the bottom, and I'm sure we'll be able to respond to that very soon. So we are just going to start by I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit before we begin. So a little bit of a background on me. I am a social media marketing coach and started my business Thrive and Shine about 5 years ago, where I was coaching business owners to build a standout company brand. And before that, I was actually I would say I had a social enterprise called Matcha Sisters, where we give back 50% of profits to anti-human trafficking companies and organizations. So essentially, my business now has pivoted into me becoming a digital marketing agency, where my team and including myself and the team at Thrive and Shine Co., we help our clients to create standout brands using Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. But in the last few years, I've found personal branding is going to be the biggest strong point. It's the selling point to help you stand out online. And why is that? Well, one of the things that people want to see is your face. People want to know who you are, who's the person behind the brand. The reason why a lot of people connect with others on social media is because they like the story or they like the person or they are really connecting with the message. So that's why personal branding is so important. And so over the past, I've run lots of workshops and done a lot of speaking events to really build my personal brand. But all over social media, if you ever come across my Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, I am the face of Thrive and Shine Co. So anything that I advertise, I'll usually put my branding on there, but also my headshots, because that's what makes you memorable. People remember you, your face, who you are, as opposed to what you're sharing or your service or what it is that you offer. So a quote from Steve Jobs is one that I highly resonate with. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here? So we've got to remember that just like Steve Jobs left a legacy on Apple, we are here to leave a legacy as well. And we're here to build brands that are memorable. I'm in one of the most competitive industries out there, social media and marketing. And marketing is one of those spaces where it's not only competitive, but it's challenging. People are, wanting to keep up with the algorithm, they're wanting to keep up with trends. There's so much change and new things happening and innovation that it's very, very important to stand out and to be on top of the game. And that's why personal branding is something that is so important for me, but also for you if you are in a similar industry or if you are the face of your business. Now, what is personal branding? A lot of people, kind of find the whole idea of personal branding a little bit daunting. And I can understand why, because, sometimes you just don't want to necessarily show up. There are a lot of people that sometimes they don't necessarily want to show up as the face of their brand. But why is personal branding so important? Now, personal branding is one of those things. If you think of, for example, Lorna Jane, or if you think of, Gary Vee, or any of the major I guess influencers out there, it's the personal brand that makes them memorable. And in fact, people remember their personal brand more so than they actually remember the business owner. So that's why personal branding is so important. And you've got to also remember as well that when it comes to personal branding, it's about the client. It's actually about your audience and your client, and not so much about, everything else. It doesn't necessarily have to mean it is all about you. It's actually also about the client as well. So we've got to remember that personal branding is about showing your vision, your purpose, your why, and how much you care. And that's one of the things that makes personal branding so important, and also so powerful, because when you have a strong personal brand and you are someone like Lorna Jane or Gary Vee, or you're the face of your business, people will start to know, like, and trust you, and they will start to remember you even if you pivot to another business. And that's a great thing. Personal branding allows pivoting, and it allows for you to change different offerings in your business, and also pivot your business without people forgetting who you are. So say, for example, if you built a brand and you were a photographer, and you went from doing photography to then doing something completely different. Say, for example, you went from that to doing PR, then people are still going to remember who you are because they've seen you on social media. They remember your face, and it's a lot easier to get things off the ground when you're the founder and the face of the brand. So, for example, for PR purposes, that's also very good as well. So, should you be building a personal brand or a business brand? That is a question that a lot of people ask me when they first start working with me. And also, a lot of people are asking online on the internet as well. Now, if you focus on building a personal brand, people will follow you as a person, right? So, as I said before, even if you end up doing something different along the way, people will still continue to choose to follow you because you've built a strong personal brand. Now, you can build both simultaneously and have a hybrid, which is similar to what I've got, or you can just focus on just building a personal brand. It really depends on how you want to go about it. But when you build a personal brand or a company brand, there are a few things that you've got to keep in mind. For example, obviously, as I said before, if you were a photographer and one day you decided to become a graphic designer, your existing followers will still continue to follow and support you because you've established a strong personal brand. So you don't need to rename social media accounts or pages because they are following your personal account. That means that your followers are genuinely interested in what you are creating and what you're going to do next. So I don't know about you, but I personally think that alone is a reason enough for me to be building a strong personal brand. Now, whenever you think of a personal brand, a lot of the time we are thinking about the person behind the brand, like Elon Musk. He has way more followers than his pages does. And we've got to also remember as well that when we're building a personal brand, it's not so much about just what you're doing from day to day, your coffee, your breakfast, your family, things like that. Your personal brand is like a chapter of a book of the story of you, and you're sharing different chapters of your journey and your story, and you're sharing what's important to you, and also, what it is that you've discovered along the way on your journey. And so you become a key person of influence in your industry, and you start to stand out because not only are people remembering you because your face, you're showing up, but people also remember the takeaways and your story because of the personal journey and your story that you have shared. So it's important not to hide away behind the company, even if you've got a tech startup or a product or a technology software or a solution that might be, more brand centric or company centric. It's still important to show up as the face of your brand. And so that's something that I wanted to, I guess, guide you guys through and make sure that you guys understand that. Now, we all know Gary Vee, right? We all know who Gary Vee is, but how many of us know the name of his actual business? Like, I think some people know Gary Vee more than his actual business. So VaynerX and VaynerMedia is the name of his company. But Gary Vaynerchuk actually has way more followers himself than his own brands. And, the same goes with Ariana Huffington and Lorna Jane. They've got way more followers themselves than their actual brands. So that's something to really keep in mind. And, just remember that your legacy is what people remember you for. So it's your legacy and your story and what you have to share. That's why people choose to follow you. So if there's one big takeaway I'd like you guys to have for today, it's you don't have to choose between building a personal brand and a company brand. You can build both simultaneously. And so what I call that is a hybrid of a personal and a company brand. And that's what we create at Thrive and Shine Co. for our clients. We create hybrids where, regardless of whether you are a coach or you've got a coaching directory business, regardless of whether you are a personal trainer or you own a gym, regardless of whether you have a baby product or you're a mother or a father, your personal brand needs to stand alongside your company brand. And a lot of the time people are, moving away from company brands and they're just starting a personal brand and just going with the personal brand. And they've got websites, with their name.com or .com.au, for example. So it really is a personal choice. And I'm going to talk you guys through the difference between the two. So first of all, a personal brand is built around you, your personality, your lifestyle, your values, your interests, your story, what's changing for you, what you've discovered, and also the key knowledge, takeaway, and wisdom that you have to share. Whereas a business brand is built around an identity that you create for your business. So it really means you've crafted a name for your business that's independent of your personal name and your personal brand. So for example, for us, it's Thrive and Shine Co. and Phoebe Lay. And I'm building Thrive and Shine Co. on Instagram, but Phoebe Lay is the face of the business. So that's what I mean by a hybrid between a personal brand and a business brand or a company brand. Now, some questions that you ought to ask yourself if you are deciding between building a company brand or you have decided to go ahead and build a personal brand. These are some things that I would personally ask myself, and I highly recommend that you write these down or take a screenshot, because it's something that's going to allow you to really hone in on your message and really get that message right. So the first thing that you should ask yourself is, what do you want to be known for? What are the things that make you unique? And also, what is the market looking for? Like, these things, these questions are key, because if you know what you want to be known for and your unique offering or your USP is clear, then you've got a strong brand. And that's very, very important. Another thing that we've got to remember as well is that it's you that makes you stand out in your business. It's your story. So if that's the case, a personal brand is going to be very important. But if it's the company story, like if your company is about the people and the team, then your company brand is also really crucial as well. So in that case, it would be important to build a hybrid and to have both. What makes you unique is always going to be your journey. So your story and your journey are very, very important parts to share. And that's something that I always encourage my clients to spend a lot of time really thinking about their story, what they've learned along the way, and what makes them unique. So that's also a thing to remember as well. So when you are deciding between a personal brand and building a business brand, there are some things that you've got to consider. And so some of the things that you should consider is that personal branding at the moment it's hot and it's replacing traditional business marketing. So it's also something that most people are moving towards even before they've even built a business. So what I mean by that is, for example, influencers are building their personal brand way before they even have a product. And they're doing that by sharing their lifestyle, sharing what they learn even from holidays, things like that. And so that's them building a personal brand even before they have established a company or a business. It's also very important to remember that engagement is key. Like that is something that is always going to be very, very important and something that we always need to do. So engaging with your audience when you have a personal or a company brand there's no excuse not to do it. It's something that you will always not. There's no way of moving away from engaging with your audience. And so spending that time on social media to engage with your audience, to show up as the face of your brand, is always going to be really crucial. It's also important to remember that you've got to show up on camera. Like that is a big part of building your personal brand. And so showing up with video on camera, on your Insta stories, Facebook Live, that's going to help you be more memorable. And it's good to share your latest thoughts, industry news, your knowledge. That's also very helpful as well. Sharing behind the scenes is something that will also allow you to build your company brand alongside your business brand, your personal brand. And so that's why Instagram stories are so popular. It's widely used. It's because it allows for the stuff that you don't necessarily want to show up on your grid to stay in front of people's minds and for people to be able to still see and follow. So they want to see the behind the scenes. People want to know what's behind the company, what is happening today, what's news. So that's something to also keep in mind as well. And finally, your customers will choose you over your business any day. So it's also very, very important to know that your values, how you show up, your integrity, especially on social media when people are really seeing a lot and they're seeing it from all these different platforms, different angles. They're seeing your comments, they're seeing your posts, they're seeing your lives. People are going to choose you over your business. So it's important to have that integrity and to have that consistency as well. Identifying your gifts is very, very important. And it's something that your brand, should always show, because, your gifts is what makes you shine. So your personal brand should show who you are, what you stand for, what your dreams are, your personal story, your values, what you've created, and who your clients are. And so that's something that you guys can definitely write down, and I'll share that in the next slide. So the who, the what, your dreams, your personal story, what you've created, your value, and who your clients are. That's what your personal brand is all about. And remember, it is still client focused. Even if it's your personal brand, it's still client centric. Another thing is also the things that you love. So that's something that you can definitely share as well. What are the gifts that other people have given you that you want to share? What are some other businesses that you can shout out to? Personal branding doesn't necessarily have to mean you are an influencer before you share your favorite, cotton t-shirt, or before you share your favorite, accessories and things like that, or your go-to place. It's also a good way to be promoting other businesses as well, and to cross promote, because the more you give, the more you get. Be eye-catching, memorable, and easily recognized. That's one thing that I would definitely say is the best way to share your personal brand. And it also allows people to really get to know you. They really get to know you when you are memorable and easily recognized. And so what that means is shine, stand out. Don't do the same as everybody else, and don't hide away in your comfort zone. Go and do things that scare you each day on social media. That's one of the things that I would highly recommend that you do, because, sometimes it's really easy to just go, oh, I'm not looking that great today, I'm going to hide behind camera and just share a stock photo. But if you actually stand out and if you actually show up, people are going to remember you, even for the moments when you weren't at your personal best. They remember the emotion that was left in the post. They remember the emotion that was left behind the scene. So that's why it's so important to shine, to be memorable, and to be authentic and real. Authenticity is ultimately the way to go. And that's what's going to help you stand out online. Your brand identity. Now, your brand identity is not like your fonts, your brand guide, your brand colors. Your brand identity is actually like what your brand represents, right? So it's the tone of voice, it's the values behind your business, and it's the kind of conversations that you want to be having with your team to identify what your brand identity is. And it's something that you can refine along the way, but it ultimately doesn't really change too much. Your brand identity is kind of like the personality of your brand. So it usually stays pretty much consistent, but it's something that you've got to identify and get very, very clear on as well. Now, we need to also remember what message you are going to deliver to your audience, because your message is super important. Like, your message is a big part of personal branding. And so when you think about what message you are going to deliver, you also need to make sure that you're clear and concise. So just remember, KISS, keep it stupid simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate things and we try to fit in as many words as we can, and we try to make it all look very glamorous or artistic, or we try and make it look very perfect. And I understand perfectionism, because that's something that I had to overcome when I started my business and when I started this journey. And KISS is something that I always try to come back to, and I just remember how simple it was before we made it complicated. So that's something that we, should keep in mind, and it will make things so much easier, especially on social media. Another thing about personal branding and social media in general is don't focus too much on selling your product. Focus more on growing your brand, and the selling will come naturally. So, for example, my digital marketing agency, in the first couple of years, we started to run ads a lot. We were running ads to promote my lead magnet and promote my ebooks, but we weren't running ads, where it was like, hey, come and be my client and come and get your social media management done by Thrive and Shine Co. No. That's not what marketing is about. Marketing is no longer about interruption and, sponsored ads that have this, oh my goodness, I can't miss this offer kind of advertising. Marketing is now about giving value. So it's about content marketing. It's the content that sells, and it's the education and the content more so than the selling. So we've got to remember that content is king or queen, and that's going to ultimately help you grow your brand. And the selling will come naturally afterwards anyway. So you don't need to worry so much about selling your product as opposed to growing your brand and your brand awareness. Why is social media important? Now, we've come down to, a point where most of us are now working from home, or we've had to work from home for the last 1.5, 2 years because of COVID. And so social media has become the norm for the way people interact. It's no longer just about, because of the fact that, it's nice, it's fun, it's a good thing to have. It's a must have. Social media has gone a long way. We've gone through several digital renaissances in the last year and a half. Like, we've gone from people being on social media to now people doing business on Zoom and from home. And, people are now becoming more and more aware of the importance of social media. So the reason why social media is so important is because it keeps you building relationships, and it keeps those connections genuine and makes you more memorable. The relationships that were had at coffee shops or in person or at events are now being had in Facebook groups, in LinkedIn groups, and online. So we've got to stay in sight and stay relevant, because out of sight, out of mind. Social media is also really important for you to gain trust, credibility, and to drive more traffic to your website. So make sure you've got your call to actions in place, because if you don't have call to actions, people will come across your posts and they'll continue on. So having strategy when it comes to social media is very, very important. And there's plenty of that on my Instagram pages or LinkedIn if you want to learn more. And also make sure as well that when you are building your strategy, that you also look at your overarching marketing blueprint. Okay, so your marketing blueprint or your marketing funnel is very, very important. And that is going to help you stand out, show up, and go much further and turn those relationships into actual clients. It's also about not having to compete on price. And that's the great thing about building a personal brand. It's that if you have a personal brand and you stand out and you are known in your industry and you are a key person of influence, people come to you not because of your price anymore. They come to you because they know, like, and trust you. And so that's very, very important as well. And lastly, I wanted to really quickly touch on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of those mediums where there are so many more business owners on there now. It used to be about like finding jobs or corporate or leadership. Now, LinkedIn is the place to be for anyone that is going B2B or for anyone that is, building their personal brand as well. So LinkedIn is something not to forget. I know there are a lot of LinkedIn users, potentially even the ones watching today, but if you haven't got a LinkedIn strategy, make sure that you have a LinkedIn strategy set up. And that's something that I, focus predominantly on when it comes to building people's personal brands. And LinkedIn also is great for those that really want to connect with people that have higher net worth, or people that are, working in certain industries or have a certain sizable, scalable business. Though that's where a lot of business happens. And we spend a lot of our time on LinkedIn, like my team and my clients included, are focusing a lot on lead gen when it comes to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is great for lead generation. So where will you show up? Where are you going to show up tomorrow? Where you show up is one of those things that you've got to keep in mind of. And it's one of those things that we've got to remember and keep at the forefront of our minds, because where you show up is where people will remember you. So regardless of whether it's LinkedIn or TikTok or Pinterest or Facebook or Instagram, you've got to have that consistency, and where you show up is super duper important. And finally, the last thing I want to share is that consistency is key. So if you're building a company or a personal brand and you're consistent, your branding is consistent, the tone of voice is consistent, your brand identity is consistent, then you're going to be much more memorable. And so being consistent across like the different platforms, your website, your banners, your highlight covers, your flyers, your podcast covers, etc., that's very important. And with the new era of, people doing DIYing it and creating their own banners or covers, things like that. It's very easy to be drawn in by a new design on Canva or a new look and feel, but consistency is actually very important, especially if you want to be memorized and you want people to come to you and connect with you. Being memorable is about being consistent and showing up. So continue to thrive and shine on social media. If you guys have any questions at all and you want to find out more about my framework, we have a 7-step attention authority framework that I go through with all of my clients and including my coaching clients as well as my digital marketing agency clients. So what that means is we go through step by step a process and a system that allows you to go out and be seen, be heard, and thrive and shine online. And how that framework works is we identify your ideal customers, your unique selling proposition, and we start to build brand awareness before we create your lead magnet. And your lead magnet is then going to be marketed consistently across social media. And we help you to build and convert prospects through social media, through Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as set up automations, email marketing, paid advertising, your website, your landing pages, and all of that falls into the Thrive and Shine Attention Authority framework. So if you guys want to connect, feel free to connect with me on social media. If you have any questions at all, I've got a Facebook group called Thrive and Shine in Business, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram. And also if you have any idea, or if you would like to find out more, or if you've got an idea of what kind of personal brand you want to build and you want to work on a strategy, just send me a DM with the word strategy and someone from my team will send you a link to book a strategy session. So thank you guys so much for jumping on. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I will now hand it over to Andrea, and looking forward to catching up and speaking to you guys sometime soon.
So I just have one question before we close the live stream. It's basically like a step-by-step how to start summary, like step 1 with your personal brand is step 2 this. If you could just give us a little bit of lineup of the steps, the basic steps that people have to start with, that would be nice.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to building a personal brand, the first thing is definitely to identify what you want to be known for. So what is it that really makes you unique to your competitors? So identifying that with some like self-coaching through those 5 questions that I had up earlier as well. That's very important. And then identifying what the market is looking for. So that's like one of the key things that you've got to know, like what is the market looking for and what are their pain points? What are the things that they desire the most and what are the things that they really want solved? Once you've identified that and you've got your company story, and then you've got like your personal story as well, then you've got to just make sure that you've got a content plan in place. So putting together like, your content pillars, what are the main key themes that you will be posting on social media? What are, certain days of the week are you going to post about? So for example, a Monday motivational post or a Tuesday tip or a Thursday takeaway. Identifying your themes and your topics, and then making sure that you've just got that consistency online. And obviously like talking about online and being online, that would be another topic of its own, but it's about showing up on social media. It's about really having your content showing up on having your Facebook page, your personal page on LinkedIn, making sure that your banners are consistent and you've got your call to actions on your banners as well, or your website, and just making sure that your profile looks up to date and is consistent across the platforms that you are using. That would be the first step to building your personal brand. And then from there, it's really about that consistency and creating content each week. So if anyone has questions around that, like, and they specifically would like to work on creating their content pillars or, creating, their profile that's consistent on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, then feel free to come and, just send me a message or just let me know. And obviously someone from my team and I can help you set up your personal branding, your accounts, and also help you to really build that and build your personal brand as well as your content pillars. So your content pillars is basically like the main themes or topics that you'll be talking about.
Thank you very much. So I will stop the live stream now, and then Simfong and Jasmine, if you have questions, then this is the time to ask. We have some time with Phoebe. Thank you for those who are watching on YouTube or rewatching this, and don't forget that you can still participate in the contest until the end of the year, and you can win packages for yourself, $500 each, if you are on the top of the leaderboard. So make sure